Hello everyone. My name is Sat. I'm from RVC Bengaluru. Today we're going to talk about interfacing Octave with ECL. I think it's been we are running short of time, so I'll just move forward a bit for us. And here is the first code. Can we run MATLAB code in Octave? So I'd like to see the answer just to know how audience are familiar with Octave. Yeah, just before starting going into the development of plugin or whatever it is. So just give just a brief introduction about Octave. What Octave is. So Octave is a scientific programming language used for numerical computation. It's an open source GNU project and started in 1988 and the first version was out by 1994. So one of the main reasons Octave started was just to replicate the functionality what MATLAB has and make sure that a lot of people use it. And Octave, like other languages, is an scripting-based language. We write queries, and Octave also supports user-defined functions, script files, function files, and mix files. So all are self-explanatory, and I just say what files is. Mix files are files which acts as an interface to C, C++, and Fortran. If you want to bring additional computations from those languages to the Octave, you can use mix files. So Octave has primitive types like logical, double, int 8, data containers like structure, cell array, and structure array. So I'm going to talk about this data containers in the coming slide. So this is about the basic introduction about the Octave. And I have few examples of the Octave queries. I can define functions. You can see there the second point says okay, define a function, and I can assign a variable with some values, and I can use the functions defined in the defined by the user. So moving on. So people who already work with ECL, who have used so many other embedded languages, probably thinking, why do I need Octave? What's the use of Octave? So here are a few points I'd like to mention just to appreciate why Octave can be used on a big data platform like HPCC. So Octave is a numeric scientific language which simplifies mathematical operations to a great extent. So if you see the modern day scenario, all the data that we get is a numerical data, or else if you don't get a numerical data, it can be a numerical data. So this is one of the reasons why Octave can be extensively used on HPCC system. Big data, the inflow of data will be huge, and it will be mostly in numerical data. So that is one of the reasons why embedding Octave is necessary on HPCC. Octave functionality can be greatly expanded by the addition of packages or modules. Has a wide range of packages available like image processing, genetic algorithms, and audio processing. It's not just the usage of Octave doesn't bring the mathematical computation, but a lot of packages are available out there. As I mentioned, image processing is there, fuzzy logic toolkit is there, and even we have packages which support machine learning, data smoothing. Lot of packages are there which can be extensively used in using the Octave as an embedded language. My friends Surya and Akshay were talking about machine learning. Yeah, that's a different approach to design the machine learning model. Using Octave, you can also design the machine learning model. It adds in one more way of you designing the model on the HPCC. Octave has built-in linear algebra support along with the additional package for linear algebra. So if people are familiar with machine learning, so linear algebra is basic for machine learning. So to design any model that you need for machine learning, you can use Octave there. And of all the points I mentioned, the last 2 points are the most important. Octave is an open source product, and Octave supports MATLAB code. So MATLAB is an extensively used product in numerous fields. So you may be familiar with MATLAB. So to use MATLAB, we have to get a license from them. So, but Octave is an open source with the same functionality as MATLAB. So that's one of the reasons that Octave can be used on a big data platform like HPCC. Moving on, this is a small note for all the users who want to use Octave plugin. The usage of Octave plugin requires pre-installation of Octave. The best recommended way to have pre-installed Octave is to build from the source You can get it from ftpgnu.org. And then the version the plugin development was done was 5.1.0. The Octave version was 5.1.0. So make sure that you have pre-installed Octave and build from source. Moving on, I'll just brief you about how the development of Octave plugin was made. I'm not sure about the audience, how familiar they are with development or working of a plugin. So here is a brief surface that I'll try to make. Here we go. So Octave interpreter is the core of Octave environment. Initialization of interpreter builds all the necessary requirements for evaluating embedded code. So if you, as I said, Octave is a query-based language where you write each query. So what happens when I submit a query? Where does it go? So this is where it lands. Octave interpreter. So Octave interpreter is an object of which represents the Octave environment. It receives all the queries that you do, and it evaluates using the function called eval string. So which returns an object of Octave value. What is Octave value? Octave value is the universal representation of data in Octave environment. Can represent int, can represent string, because all types of Octave types using Octave value. So how do the implement the plugin works? So I evaluate the embedded code within the Octave. I store it in a global variable and then pass the variable among the methods of the wrapper class. This is how I extract the result from the evaluated code. So, and to bind the parameters, what I do is I build an object of Octave value, pass it to a Octave interpreter. In the Octave interpreter, I use a reference of symbol scope. Symbol scope maintains something called symbol table, where all the variables are there, and then I append the variable to the variables, append the variables to the symbol table, and then which adds the variables to the working frame, and then I evaluate it and then clear all the things. So plugin development is not about the evaluation of the embedded code, it's about the passing of data from Octave to ECL and ECL to Octave. When I said I evaluate the code and store a global variable, store the result in a global variable, that means I'm getting the data, passing the data from Octave to ECL. When I say I bind the parameters, I'm passing the data from ECL to Octave. I hope all the people, all the audience get a brief idea about how it works. And moving on, the last point to add on, exception handling is done using maintaining the error stream. This is because of the reason Octave environment directly writes the error to the error stream, so we have to maintain error stream and then handle the exceptions. Here I'll not explain about these things, and if you see there, the two tables there, when I say I pass the data, what type is mapped to what. So here's a few examples of it. If you see the right table to the right, you can see the set of string is mapped to char matrix. You may question, why is string mapped to char matrix? Why isn't it mapped to string vector? So by Octave 5.1.0 version, we don't have any support for string matrix or string vector. So when I declare a string variable in it, it is a character vector. So the set of string is mapped to char matrix, where each row in a char matrix represents single string in a set of string. So that's how it is. And record is mapped to a structure. So as I said, structure is a data container similar to the record. Elements of the structure are accessed using the field names, and yeah, it is one-to-one mapping. It's proper mapping from record to the structure. And data set is mapped to two types: structure array and matrix. I'll talk about why I map two types of data to data set. So we'll see about that in our next slide. So as you see, Octave plugin doesn't support data and a Unicode type. It doesn't support set of records and set of data sets. And for the usage of matrix, there are few restrictions that we have few examples in the coming slides, and we'll see how we can use those things. So record, data set, and matrix. So if matrix is a basic type in Octave, so all the operations that are made in our Octave use matrix as a basic type. So it's a first class object in Octave. So to define a matrix, the equivalent ECL definition will go like this, where the record template has a set of real or set of integer as a field, and this is the only type that maps to matrix. So this is how we can deal with matrices in embedded or in Octave plugin. So we can't use set of char within that thing. The reason because it will map to a multi-dimensional matrix which is not supported by the plugin. And matrix can be, there are few restrictions of it. The next 2 points just say about the restrictions I'll talk about in the coming examples. Before going to the examples, for all the users who want to use the plugin, so whenever you want to get an output from the embedded code, I ask you to explicitly mention the return value of the last statement. The reason because to support conditional statements and iterative systems, there are some restrictions, and sometimes the output that we get on an Octave command from our Octave shell is different than what we get using eval string of Octave interpreter. So if you want a specific output, please to write the write explicitly the return statement at the last. So here's the first example. It just shows you a conditional block there, and then I get a Boolean output. I pass an integer to it. This is a simple example. I just wanted to show you that conditional blocks can be used within the embedded code. And then moving on, if you're not sure, if you're confused by the mapping of data type, you can actually check what type of data type is mapped to what type in Octave. So there are a function called class of X which gives the description of the type. So I have passed unsigned X. The class X represents a string which says X is of type unsigned integer. So that's what the output is. These examples show that you can use the predefined functions within the Octave. That's pretty much it in these examples. As I said, Octave minimizes or simplifies numerical computation to a large extent. So if you can see there, I am multiplying two vectors element-wise multiplied Hadamard product, where the ith element of A is multiplied with the ith element of C. So if you use any other languages, you have to put for loop, then move through it, then store it in a variable and get it. It will be like 4-6 lines of code. If you can see there, the simplification is just 4 characters of code within Octave. So Octave simplifies mathematical operation to a large extent. The coming slides explain there's a record definition over there. I have a record which has fields real C, real S, real T, which are mapped to cause, which are real cause, real sign. Those are the values. If you see the below definition where I have say generate trigonometry, I have passed a value to it. I have generated the values and stored that in a structure. So structure is mapped to a record. So if you see the last statement, I have explicitly mentioned the return value as X. That's the reason. That's one of the important condition while using an Octave plugin. So you have to explicitly say mention what type you want as an output. And moving on, here is a example how you can use matrix. Matrix is defined using a set of real data record template. I can pass the matrix to the working frame only if it is a part of another record or a part of another data set. We can't directly pass the matrix to the working frame. The example brief you about that. You can go through it. And the next slide says we can get the Octave matrix output from the embedded code. The restriction is only for sending the parameters into the working frame. There are no restrictions of getting any output from the embedded code. So the last example shows about a data set. So it's just a data set where it's mapped to structure A. So I have sent a structure A to the working frame. I have manipulated the data and returned it. So here I just finish it by a small quick poll. What type of array indexing does Octave have? Octave use? I'll look into this. I'll be waiting for this answer. It's an interesting question for all of you. And then I'll just conclude it. Say Octave plugin adds one more language to the list of embedded language supported by ECL. Octave brings extended functionality to the HPCC system. It can be used extensively on big data. So before concluding it, I'll thank everyone and HPCC Summer Internship Committee to give me an opportunity to work on the work for HPCC system. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much. This has been very informative. Let's take just a quick moment and look at your first poll question, which was, can MATLAB code run in Octave? And 66% said yes, and 33% said no. So, Saptak, what is your answer?
The answer is yes, you can run MATLAB code in Octave.
All right, perfect. And, well, we've got your last one right here, which is what type of an array indexing does Octave use? And this is a little bit of a trick question, isn't it? I know people are still answering it, but would you mind giving us the answer real quick?
Yeah, the answer is one-based, and people who got marked it as one say they are absolutely right.
Awesome. So all the people who answered it actually answered it correctly. So that's fantastic. All right, we have time here for one really quick question. And that question is, can you please explain about the usage of the external package?
Yeah, it's Octave. The usage of Octave can be extended exponentially by the usage of additional external packages. So the how I use an package within an embedded script is simple. So you get the package on your system, and then it's similar to the way you write the script files. You define, you load the package into the interpreter, you use all the functionality, and you unload it. So it's simple as it. So when the definition starts, when the embedded code starts, you load it, you use it, and then you unload it and return whatever the value you want. I think that's how you use an external package.
All right, wonderful.